welcome to Spoken with Authority. I hope you are doing absolutely fantabulous. I'm doing great. Oh, it feels so good outside. This wind is blowing and I am here for it. So, today, or tonight rather, it's today right now, but so I was at church a few weeks ago, and I think it was Bible study. And anyway, and the pastor was talking about, the fruits of the Spirit and what the fruit of the Spirit is. And he had said something, or he was talking about something, and I was like, oh wow, like that's it. I feel like that's what the next podcast gets to be about, because I feel like it's people need to hear it, right? So the title of the podcast for today is it really fruit? Right? Is it really fruit? Galatians 5:22 through 23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control." Now, whenever I look up fruit in the Strong Concordance, the Greek word for it is karpos, Karpos, means result of, offspring of something. And so whenever I look up the words into the Strong Concordance, I then kind of go to Google and look up like what the meaning of that word is, or how would the Greeks use that word in the biblical times. So I was searching Google on how the Greek word would be used. And here's some of the things it said. Result of action or state of being. So the fruit, this is talking about fruit. So karpos, this is the definition of the word karpos in Greek, which is fruit in English. And so it said result of action or state of being. John the Baptist tells Pharisees to produce fruit, meaning their actions should show evidence of changed heart. Hi, how are you? Good. And then it says spiritual fruit, positive evidence of a life transformed by faith. And I was just like, wow. So fruit in Greek, karpos, which means fruit in English, positive evidence of a life transformed by faith. Result of action or state of being. And then it says John the Baptist tells Pharisees to produce fruit, meaning their actions should show evidence of changed heart. So like the fruit that we have in our life, it says like you will know them by their fruit. So the fruit in our life is that evidence, that seen evidence that we are a new people, that we are a new creation, that we don't act the same now as a child of God, as a Christian, than we would back then before we began to walk with Jesus. The fruit in our life is going to be that changed evidence. And what is the fruit in our life? The joy, the peace, the love, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the faithfulness, the humility, and the self-control. And then if you go and do also in the concordance, it says G2590, everything done in true partnership with Christ. That's what it says in the concordance. So like the Greek word for fruit is karpos, but whenever you look up fruit in the Strong Concordance, this is the definition of what it says. It says everything done in true partnership with Christ. So our fruit, which is the joy, the love, the peace, all those things, is done in true partnership with Christ. So if you have true partnership with Christ, then the fruit in your life is proof of that. That's the evidence of the true partnership with Christ, the evidence of walking with Christ, the evidence of the relationship with Christ. Is that saying that we're perfect and we're not going to fall and make mistakes? No, of course not. We may have our moments where our fruit's not really showing right then, but that doesn't mean that we don't have it. Maybe we just kind of fell short and we were slipping that day. And I love that. I love how it says done in true partnership with Christ. That's everything. I'm sorry, I missed that part. Everything done in true partnership with Christ, by definition, results from two life streams. The Lord living his life through ours to yield what is eternal. Absolutely beautiful. So also I looked up a little bit more, and it said, in agrarian world of ancient Israel, fruit was the visible proof of a healthy tree or vine. So I looked up, is it hard for a tree to produce fruit? Is it complicated for the tree to produce fruit, right? And so that's what it said. It says, in agrarian world of ancient Israel, fruit was the visible proof of a healthy tree or vine. And that really was like, I was like, wow. So like, when God tells us to produce fruit, and then, it says that you know them by their fruit, that's the visible proof of a healthy tree or vine. So to produce fruit is to be spiritually healthy, right? Yes. Because breaking this down and looking at all these definitions, and then looking at, is it difficult for a tree to produce fruit? Is it difficult? Is it hard for it to produce fruit? And it's telling that the process was the visible proof of a healthy tree or vine. So that means that it's healthy. In order for a tree to produce fruit, it has to be healthy, right? It has to be healthy, all the things that it needs to be able to produce that fruit in order to be healthy, or to be healthy to produce the fruit. So to produce fruit is to be spiritually healthy. So to have the joy, the love, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the faithfulness, the humility, and self-control, you have to be spiritually healthy. And how are we spiritually healthy? By having a relationship with God, by walking with God, by spending time with God, by praying, by going to church, by spending time with him, reading your word, praise and worship. That's how you are healthy, spiritually healthy. Matthew 7:18 says, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So if you are a evil, mean, hateful person, you cannot produce good fruit. Can you at some point be nice or kind? Yeah. But is that how you are all the time? Is that your personality? Is that the characteristics that you carry? Maybe that's something you get to ask yourself. Am I spiritually healthy so I can produce the fruit? To be spiritually healthy, you will not bear bad fruit, hate, pride, evil. You just won't. Now, like I said, that's not meaning that you're not going to have your days or your moments where you kind of slip and you're like, man, I shouldn't have said that because that's not who I am. That's not my character. That's not showing my fruit. So don't mistake my words from what I'm trying to say. To be spiritually healthy is to 99% of the time you are love, joy, peace, gentleness, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, self-control, and patience. Maybe that 1% of the time you might slip and fall and not be so nice to somebody, but for the most part you are a very nice person and a very gentle, loving, kind, patient, humility person. Now that we have kind of talked about like what is the fruit, what does it take to produce the fruit, and we know that that's to be spiritually healthy. How are we spiritually healthy? By having a relationship with God. How do we have a relationship with God? We pray. First, we have to ask him into our heart and become saved. We have to live that way. We have to worship. We have to talk to him. We have to praise. We have to obey the 10 Commandments. We have to read our Bible. We have to pray. I just said that. We have to have an actual relationship with him. And to have an actual relationship, you have to spend time with someone, right? Of course. So now that we have established all of that, and we've laid the framework, let's talk about this. Let's talk about it to where some people are probably going to be like, well, I don't know, Heather, that's not right, whatever, and she thinks she knows everything. This is by far me saying that I think I know everything. This is actually me giving my yes and stepping out of my uncomfortableness to talk about something that I know people are probably not going to like, but it is what it is. Just because somebody in moments is nice and kind and gentle does not mean that they have fruit. I've heard some people say they have the fruits of the Spirit. But do they though? Do they? Showing friends, your inner circle, the people that make it easy to be nice and kind and gentle to, that's not the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit or having the fruit of the Spirit, or that kindness, that gentleness being a fruit of the Spirit, is whenever, in all actuality, anybody else probably would have slapped them or throat punched them or been mean or rude to them because they're being mean and rude to you. But instead, you're kind, you're loving, you're gentle, you're patient with those people that make it hard to do that with. That is the fruit of the Spirit. Just because you're nice and kind and loving and gentle and faithful and patient and all the things with the people in your life who make it easy, that's not really showing fruit. Right? Don't you think? Don't you think that if it's easy and they make it easy to be patient with them and all of those things, how is that really showing that you're spiritually healthy? Because having fruit means that you're spiritually healthy. So if you're spiritually healthy, and it also says fruit is the evidence of a changed heart, the evidence of everything being done with Christ, the evidence of spiritually healthy. So if it's with someone that is just nice and kind and sweet and happy and joyful, and you're patient and loving and kind and gentle with them, that's not really showing much. I mean, I'm not discounting that, but I'm saying if you really want people to see that evidence, if you really want people to see that everything is done with Christ, then it's going to be in those moments of, whoa, like I probably would have slapped that person. I might have cussed that person out if I was them. I might have cut them off in line. You know what I'm saying? But you do the complete opposite. You're kind and gentle and loving and faithful and all the things. That is going to show somebody, oh wow, they have the fruit of the Spirit. Because if it's easy, then it wouldn't be much evidence, right? I mean, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm not saying that right, but you kind of get my drift. Matthew 7:16 says, by their fruit you will recognize them. This is about the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus is teaching, beware of false prophets and to judge people by their actions and character rather than words. So if Jesus is telling them, you'll know them by their fruit, you'll recognize them by their fruit as he's talking to them, and this is about teaching them to beware of false prophets, and then tells them to judge people by their actions and character rather than words. So if somebody is easy to love, easy to be kind to, easy to be patient with, then that's not really showing much evidence. Judging people by their actions means that in a normal, or not a normal, judging people by their actions means that it's a situation that most people would act out in. They would react in a way of kind of entertaining the negativity or the nastiness or whatever it is from that other person. But if that person is being kind and loving and gentle to someone that is being rude and hateful and mean, their character is speaking, not their words. The fact that they are still being nice and kind and gentle and loving to a person that is being the complete opposite is, I believe, what Jesus is talking about. Because anybody can say, oh, I'm a nice person. I'm a gentle person. I'm a patient person. I have humility. I'm loving. But in a situation to where it might be hard for all of that, does that person's actions and character show that they are loving and kind and gentle and patient? A pair of lips can say anything, right? Anybody can say, I'm a nice person, I'm a loving person, I'm kind, I'm gentle. But at the end of the day, in a hard situation, how do they act? What are their actions? What is their response to somebody that is rude? What is their response to somebody that cuts them off in line? What is their response to someone who is just being disrespectful? You know, society wants everybody to say, oh, you got to clap back. You got to have that clap back. You're going to let them talk to you like that? Actually, yeah, because I have to answer for my words. It says in the Bible, every word that you speak, you will be held accountable for. So regardless of what they're doing, I don't have to answer for how they're treating me. I have to answer for how I'm treating them. I have to answer for the words that I speak to them. So just because they're being nasty and ugly and mean and rude and disrespectful doesn't mean that I have to. Just because society tries to make us think that that's what we should do, because how dare you just let people disrespect you. There is a way to not let people disrespect you without having to disrespect them. Let me say that again. There is a way to not allow people to disrespect you by also not disrespecting them, because we have to answer for our words. We have to answer for our words. And like I was talking about earlier, like an actual tree. A tree needs proper amount of soil, water, sunlight to grow and produce fruit. That's the same as us talking about spiritually bearing fruit. If you don't spend time with God, if you don't spend time in your word, if you don't praise and worship, if you don't have an actual relationship with God, filling yourself, renewing your mind, then you're not going to bear fruit. Because bearing fruit is being spiritually healthy. So, and this is not me saying this. God is the one that said, you will know them by their fruit. Meaning you will know the people that walk with God. You will know the people that are in relationship with Jesus by their fruit. Just because somebody is kind and nice and gentle to somebody that is easy to be that way to does not mean that they have fruit. Doesn't mean that. So for you to say, well, that person's nice, but is that person nice to someone who's not nice to them? Is that person loving to someone that's not loving to them? Is that person patient with someone who's not patient with them? That is how you measure that fruit. That is how you determine if they truly have the fruits of the Spirit. We need proper amount of praise, renewing our minds, reading the word, softening of heart. How is that done? As I said, with a relationship with God, with a relationship with God. If someone doesn't have an actual relationship with God, they can't bear fruit. They might be nice, they might be kind, but the minute that somebody snaps at them, boy, they're going to snap right back. They're going to have the clap back of the season, right? How are they to strangers? To someone who cusses them at red lights? To a neighbor who is hard to live by? To a very rude, disrespectful cashier at a store? To a waitress who may be just having a really bad day and she's spilling drinks everywhere and got your food wrong? How are they to those to those people? If they're kind and loving and gentle and patient, that is the fruit of the Spirit. That's the fruit of the Spirit. That is how you measure the goodness of someone's fruit. And maybe you are the person that claps back. Maybe you're the person that, I'm not gonna let nobody disrespect me. Great. I don't let people disrespect me either. But I don't do that by disrespecting them. I'll just cut the conversation off. I won't talk to you. I won't respond. We just won't have a conversation. I won't be around you. You won't get any of my time. That's how I don't let people disrespect me. Not by disrespecting them back. Because I have to answer to words. And I don't want to have to answer. I mean, there's already things that I got to answer for that I did. You know what I mean? And so now that you know better, you do better, right? So I don't want to be that person that feeds into somebody's negativity. Because think about it. If somebody comes up to you, or whatever the situation be, in a store, at a red light, in a restaurant, whatever it is, and they are disrespectful, they're rude, they're hateful, whatever it is, because they're just having a really horrible day, or maybe a horrible week or life or whatever, and they pop off something smart to you, and you pop off something smart to them, and now you're in this argument. You done put fuel on the fire. So now this person walks off even more angry and even more upset, and now you're upset and you're angry, and then you're thinking, oh Lord, I shouldn't have did that, like that wasn't right of me. So now you just got two people that are just angry, even more angrier than what they were when they probably walked in the door. But if that person was to be rude to you and disrespectful to you in that moment, and instead of clapping back, instead of having a reaction, you say something along the lines of, well, whatever the situation is, whether it be, you know what, I'm sorry, you have a good day. Or here, go ahead, you can go ahead, you can go first. Or, no, it's fine, you can have that one, I'll get the next one. Don't you think that would give them a moment to think and be like, oh, well, I was kind of rude and disrespectful, but that person was really nice to me. And it just may completely shift their entire day. And now they are thinking about their actions, and they're thinking maybe they need to be a little bit nicer. So the next place that they go to, they're nicer to the people. They're kinder to the people because you just broke that nastiness in them just by your kindness, just by your gentleness, just by the love. Fruit of the Spirit, a true fruit, is shown in hard, odds stacked against you situations. That's where the fruit shows. if they're only nice when people are nice to them, if they're only kind when people are kind to them, if they're only patient when people are patient with them, that's not really much evidence, is it? It's not really much evidence. If you think about, like, I don't have the definition right in front of me, but like if somebody's trying to find evidence for something, they're trying to prove something is true, right? Okay. And a lot of the times, proving that something is true is all odds stacked against it, but this evidence shows that that's not true or that is true. So think about that. Think about that. It is when someone else would have hit them, cussed them out, punched them in their throat, whatever it may be, but this person was kind and gentle and patient and loving. That's fruit of the Spirit, my friends. That's fruit of the Spirit. I didn't come on here to evaluate or point fingers at anyone. By no means. But I just wanted people to understand that it's important that we bear fruit. It says it in the Bible that people are going to know the children of God. People are going to know Christians. People are going to know the ones that have a relationship with God by their fruit. By their fruit. Is your fruit showing? Is it? Maybe you get to ask yourself that question. Maybe you get to take this to the feet of the cross and be like, Lord, I have not been showing much fruit here lately. It's been the complete opposite, actually. How can we change the world? How can we expect others to want to be a Christian? How can we expect people to want to have a relationship with God if we, as children who claim to walk with Him on a daily basis, are acting mean and hateful and rude and impatient and just, we can't. Because they're looking for that fruit. They might not know exactly what they're looking for, but trust and believe they're looking for that fruit. They may not even know that it's called fruit of the Spirit, but they're looking for it. They're looking for that person who claims to be a Christian and is actually nice to people that aren't nice to them, that are patient with people that aren't patient with them, that are loving to people that aren't very loving. They're looking. Are you going to be the person that bears that fruit and shows them the evidence of who you say that you are? Or are you going to be the other person that makes them think, oh, well, they must not be a Christian. They say it, but their actions, that doesn't really look like it. That doesn't look like it. I don't know if if that's how they act. I don't know if I really want to, I don't know if I want to be a part of that. I don't want that. You know, like that song says, I want my life to preach. I want the fruit in my life to preach what I say and speak. I want to walk the talk that I talk, or I want to walk the walk that I talk. So think about that. Think about it. Because this world is crazy. And we got to be out there in them streets, out there in the streets, out there in the trenches, talking to the people and showing the people like having a relationship with Christ is absolutely incredible. And this is how your life can change. Look at my life. Look at my life. Let me tell you about my life. Let me tell you how my life used to be compared to now. Sorry, there's a helicopter. Let me tell you how my life used to be. But now look at it. Look how I used to act, but now look how I act. That is what speaks. That is the evidence that you walk with Christ. So think about that, my friend. Think about it. If you have a testimony that you would like to share, I would love to have you as a guest. Please reach out to me, comment below. If you're watching this on Facebook, then private message me. Or if you have my phone number, send me a message. I would love to have you as a guest. You know, it says in the Bible, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words and the power of our testimony. So I would love to have you as a guest. Or maybe there is a topic that is really burning inside and you want to talk about it. Reach out to me. Let's see if we can make that happen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You never know who needs to hear this. You never know who on your timeline, or maybe you have someone specific in mind that you know needs to hear this. Share it with them. You never know how it could change their life. I thank you so much for listening, for tuning in every week. God bless you. Remember, you're awesome, you're amazing, and you walk in authority. Bye. Have a blessed day.